Good morning, everybody. How's everybody feeling today after the weekend and after that boot camp last week? How about that? That was a rush, wasn't it? Today, I want to talk to everybody about getting back to basics and how to keep yourself from getting overwhelmed when it comes to learning tarot. And when you're coming in there, hi, Tony. When you're coming in here, give me a shout out, say hello. Let me know you're here. Number one thing I want everybody to keep in mind when you're starting to learn to read tarot is it's a never-ending journey. There are literally thousands of different decks that are available for you to learn. So even though you get done, you learn one deck, there can be another deck that is completely different that you would want to learn. Hi, Shona. Yes, Shona, it will be up in the announcements tab or in the videos tab after today or after we're done here. Now, as an example, all of these are different decks. And there are cards in each one that may be similar to the others, but they sometimes can mean something completely different. So when it comes to learning tarot, just keep in mind it's a never-ending thing. If you are dedicated to tarot and dedicated to making this your life and doing tarot readings, you're going to want to learn as many decks as possible. So overwhelming yourself trying to learn just one deck is just, it's not going to serve you, and it's just going to get in your way. So keep in mind, it's a never-ending thing. Have fun with it. Make it a game. Make things interesting for yourself. Think of the people in your life and the experiences in your life and make it fun. And another thing, people look at a deck and they think, oh my God, there's so many cards in a deck to learn. And there's so many aspects of those cards, of each card. I don't know if I can, really take it all in and get the true meaning of the card. The true meaning of the card is what you make it. It is not what's written in somebody's book and what they think that card means. Yes, there are base meanings for each card for you to go on and for you to relate to, but it's not, you don't have to worry about getting it wrong, because the meaning of that card is what you make it, if that makes any sense. Let me see some hearts or some hands if that makes sense to everybody. Just because somebody else says it means something doesn't mean that's what that card means to you. It can be similar. It can be completely different than what that card means to you. And that is how, good morning, Angela. That is how there are so many different decks. I mean, think about this for a minute. If each card meant the same thing always, and there was no variation, there would never be any other decks to learn. There'd be just one deck to learn. It would be, the Rider-Waite, and that would be the end of it. But there are many different decks because there is an unlimited amount of interpretations. It's how you interpret that card. So that should take off some of the pressure for you guys, those that were having trouble, connecting the cards. I want to lift that burden off of you. I want to lift that stress off of you. You don't need to worry about what other people think that card means. Just take the base meaning and relate it to something that you know and something that you love, someone that you love. That way you can bring in that emotion, bring in that situation, and bring in the steps and stuff that you took that I was talking about in the boot camp. Now, another way to take the pressure off yourself, do not try to learn the whole deck in one day. There are, I can sit and learn a deck because I'm so used to the relation part to it. I'm so used to that association step that needs to be taken, that it's fun for me, and therefore I can sit and I can do a deck in a day. But a lot of times I don't. And the reason why I don't is because I don't want to overwhelm myself. I can sit there and go through the entire deck and I can have a ball doing it. But then when I go back through it, I will forget what I had on it, I will forget and have to redo it and then come up with another one. I mean, that is, of course, a good thing, because the more interpretations you have for that one card, the better, because you can relate it to many different situations. And when it comes to giving your clients actionable steps, that can come in handy. But when you're first learning, what I want you to do is do not try to learn more than 3 or 4 cards a day. That way you can get really in depth with these cards, and you can bring in those feelings that you need to bring in, and you can really cement those meanings in your brain, and you don't have to search for another meaning, and you don't have to worry about forgetting, because that meaning is going to be there. So take it easy on yourself. Good morning, Heather. People have the tendency of getting too hard down on themselves. So different types of decks speak to different people. We would all use a deck differently to each other. Yes, you're going to use this. You're going to have different interpretations for this deck than I do. The bases are going to be the same, but your relations are going to be different, because I have not lived your life and you have not lived mine. So the steps that you took may have worked for you, but didn't work for me. Does that make sense, Tony? The same goes for this deck. I may have the certain interpretations for this deck, and your interpretations are going to be different than my interpretations, because we did not have the same experiences, and we don't have the same feelings toward the same cards. Just like, and Tony, I'm going to use you as a reference here, just like you don't like that Page of Cups because of what it represents, right? Someone else would absolutely adore that Page of Cups, and would come up with many different meanings for that Page of Cups, and come up with something that you would have never even thought of with the Page of Cups, because you don't have that feeling. You have a complete different feeling than someone else towards that Page of Cups. You're kind of the message that you get behind that is that message of bringing that message of fertility, that message of there's a baby coming, that message that kind of, it makes you nervous, but it would make someone else it would make them over the roof happy. You see what I'm saying? There is so many different ways to interpret each card, and everybody's going to be different. So please take the pressure off yourself. You don't have to put yourself into that position. You don't have to pressure yourself like that. It is a never-ending process. It is a never-ending adventure, is the way I like to look at it. A new deck is awesome. A new deck is thrilling. You get to see different images. You get to see what memories you can come up with, and what different connections that your brain is going to make to those cards, and your heart's going to make to those cards. And it's really exciting, especially when you look at a card and you remember something that happened many years ago. And it's like, wow, there it is. And you make that connection and those feelings towards that card. Now, another way to take the pressure off yourself is to literally practice in front of a camera and record it. I said this in the boot camp last week, and the more you practice in front of that camera and get comfortable talking in front of that camera, the easier it's going to be, the easier all of it's going to be. Even if you just sit there and, hold up the card like I was doing in the boot camp and like I was doing in the Zoom calls, and explain that card to yourself. You don't have to publish it anywhere. You don't have to go live anywhere. Just record it for yourself, and then go back through and actually watch that recording from beginning to end. That way you can see how things really go on camera. You can see how you really present yourself on camera. And if there's something that you don't like, you can change it. You can, hold that in the back of your mind and you can change that. It's taken me a very long time to get used to being live. Like I've said before, I was terrified. I was terrified to go live. Are you kidding me? It's like, no, that ain't going to happen. And I forced myself to do it and to get used to it. And how I did that was I recorded myself. And then I recorded myself doing the readings, as you can see on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, if you go over to YouTube, you can see, all you can see is my hands and the cards. And you can hear my voice. And that's how I got used to talking. And that's how I got my practice in doing the live readings and stuff. And then I went on to clients. And then getting face-to-face with clients on camera is completely different than that too, because I'm showing my face, not just the cards. There's a conversation that you have to have with your client before you get to the reading. So being face-to-face, that's another step, being face-to-face with clients. And then now I'm live in the group, and it doesn't bother me at all. It's like I'm talking one-on-one, because I care about you guys. I care about the steps that I know that you need to take. And I'm trying to help you guys get through that fear and get through that anxiety of just simply learning your first deck of cards. And a lot of times when you let that nervousness take control, it blocks you. And then you get to the point where, I know in the early beginning when I was, starting to really notice the effects of the chemo, I would get so frustrated and so angry at just not being able to remember one simple card that it stopped me for a couple of weeks. It took me a couple of weeks to actually pick back up those cards and try again. But what I don't want you to do is getting stuck and then not picking all those cards back up because that frustration has got to that level. I always want you to keep in the back of your mind, if you have to, it's one card at a time. It is a never-ending process. Just because you learn one deck doesn't mean that you can't have that adventure again. That you have, that it doesn't mean that you have to stop right there. There's many different decks to learn. There's many different adventures that you can have with those cards. Does that make sense to everybody? Have never interviewed a deck, which means I have never had a bad one. Is this a necessary thing, interviewing cards? The interview, no, is not necessary. If you already have that connection and you can feel that connection with the cards, and if they're easy for you to read, you don't need to do that interview. That's completely personal. That's up to you whether or not you want to do that interview. But that video and the workbook are still available. I do believe the video is in the group here. So does anybody else have anything that really stops them? What is really stopping you from making that connection to the cards? Is it that you don't understand the process of the connection? Or is it just the fear of getting it wrong? The process, it does take some getting used to. At first, you're going to really have trouble. Some of you are really going to have trouble making that connection and looking at the card, looking at the description, and thinking of that event in your life. But I promise you, the more you practice that, the easier it's going to get. Just the fear, Tony. Excuse me. I've got a really dry throat today for some reason. But like I said, the more you practice doing that association and the more you practice trying to remember events in your life, the easier it will get for you. Stopping your mind from overthinking it, yes. You can't translate the cards. The best way I can tell you, Shona, is to go onto the website and read one paragraph at a time, because each paragraph pretty much is a different description, a different event that you can relate to in your life. And there's many different ones on there. Just read the description and really try to think of a time in your life that that you have gone through something similar. It doesn't have to be exact. And like I said, everybody is different. Everybody will have different interpretations and different events. So as long as it's similar to what the description says, then you're good. Does that make sense, Shona? You're welcome. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Think of it as simply trying to remember what you did with what friends. What trouble did you cause? Like Tony and I had, we went out with friends in high school. You went out, you went to parties, you snuck around, one friend would say that you're spending the night with this friend, and then that friend would say the exact opposite, and you would all go to a party out in the woods or something. Or at least that's the way it was around here. There's the certain spots that, the teenagers would get together and throw those parties. And you try to think about the things that you did. Where did you go? Who was there? Right down to what they wore, who was dating who, what drama was going on in about senior prom or junior prom, things like that. It's just remembering those simple situations, remembering those simple events that took place that you thought were simple. Even down to the mundane things that you do every day. Hi, Jennifer. Even right down to those simple mundane things you do every day. That can be things that trigger those memories. It's your feelings, it's your events, your process that you need to go through. And like I've said in the boot camp and on here, the more you do it, the more connections are going to be made and the more things that you're going to remember. And it's actually really is a lot of fun when you sit down and take it slow and really think, if you have to, really think about just one card. Try not to overwhelm yourself. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. And anybody else with children, because I know I mentioned this in the boot camp. If you have kids, they love to sit and listen to your life. They love to sit and listen to stories, especially about you, and learn things about you and about your life and about things that you did in the past, even if they were things that you don't want your children to do, like the parties in the woods. They still like to hear about those situations. And the more you tell stories to someone, or even tell stories to the camera, again, going back to recording yourself, tell stories to the camera. What happened? Who was there? How did you feel about each person that was there? How do you feel about those people now? Because we're not the same people as we were back in high school. We are completely different people. Back in high school, there was a lot of drama back in high school. At least there was in my high school. And people weren't very nice. But if you passed them on the street today, you would have those conversations with that person. Think about maybe if you saw that person on the street, what is it that you would talk about with that person? Would you laugh about it, or would you still have that anxiety there, or that animosity, or would you bring up anything that happened in the past, or would you just say hi and walk by because that person really wasn't that influential in your life? It's all those degrees of how people affect your life and how events affect your life. And all of the little tiny details and emotions that are there. Does that make sense? So if you have kids like I do, and I do remember the one that posted about the child situation. She said that she tried that with her son, and her son just rolled his eyes and walked away. And it's like, okay. So she had to do it to her, tell herself stories in the mirror. And I get that, because I have one child, that would roll her eyes and walk away. I have another one that would just stand there and go like this and not interested. Then I'd have another one that would really be interested in what I have to say. So hopefully you have at least one that would really sit and listen to you. No, kids, even friends. Try a group of friends. Get online, face to face, someone that you can experiment with. Of course, now we can't get together as a group, but you can get online and do FaceTime with somebody, or Skype, or like we're doing now, and just tell them a few stories. Tell them you want to practice and you want to work on a couple of cards a day. It gives them something to do if they're in lockdown too. Gives them something to do, and they get to know you more. And of course, you get that human interaction, because I know we're all missing it. It's driving me crazy. I don't know about you guys, but I hate being cooped up. We were outside most of the weekend. That's why I wasn't online, because I was trying to get outside as much as possible, because it was actually really nice here. You did some voice recording. That's awesome, Sid. That's a start. Yes, video messaging with people. I have to get my mom. I have to order a camera for my mom so we can get on here, because my mom and dad are over in PA. We're over here in New York State, and it's we can't go back and forth. So, but since we're all cooped up, it does give us something to do, and it does give us that connection that we need with the other people, and it gives us another outlet, another method to learn, things like that. So that would be another suggestion. Especially if your friends have kids. Again, the kids love stories and they love pictures. You show the kids the cards, and tell them a story about the card, and I'm sure you would have a captive audience there, so to speak. Okay, does anybody have any questions about today? This is going to be a short one today. And we do have class for those of you that joined in the academy. We do have class at 11. So that's about, 35 minutes? Something like that. So just like I said, to recap for today, don't overwhelm yourself. It's not necessary to overwhelm yourself. It's not a race. We're not in any kind of a race to learn. We're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here. Especially if you have a question, go ahead and ask. And it's a never-ending journey. Think of it as an adventure. Think of it, have fun with it. Play a game with it. And for those of you that won the books, they will be coming out. And for those of you that won the cards, they just got done with them, and seeing that they were printed in Japan, I don't know when they're going to get here. I know the printing is done. They were supposed to be here by the end of boot camp, but with everything going on, I think it's probably going to be at least 2 weeks before I'm able to get those decks out. And I sincerely apologize for that, but I will get them to you as soon as I get them. The books are tarot games. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. That's what that book looks like. I did get this on Amazon, so if you want that, I can throw the link up there when we're done here. I can throw the link up. But for those of you that did get that, I will be getting them out as soon as possible to you. Yes, the Fool's Journey, Shona. Never-ending journey. It never ends. Just have fun with it. Just remember in the back of your mind, it's not a race. You don't need to push yourself so hard. And with that, I am going to end this. I'm going to go make sure my kids are getting on their live calls with their teachers. And I will see you guys at 11 o'clock in class. And that Zoom link is in our private group for the academy. And I will see you all next Monday. Have a great day, everybody.